Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Church here in Plano, Texas. So glad to see all of your faces here. My name is Reverend Dr. Aija Duelm. I am the minister of this congregation, and I welcome you here in person, or if you're joining us online, I'm glad that you are here. We are a religious faith community. And what sets us apart as a liberal religious community is our values and our mission: to nourish spirits, work for justice, and transform lives. Basically, we are here to make a difference. We know that times change. Things change around us. Our resources shift. Some things break down and no longer work. And so we need to make changes when that happens. Throughout history, we see that when people gain new understanding and they gain new perspective, they realize that there's things that no longer work as they are. They spark movements to change those things. They work together with others to change the existing circumstances that are unjust and painful. And some of us here have been part of some of these movements in our lifetimes as well. Today is no different. There are things that are broken and not working, and we need to work together to change that, whether it is in our larger community or here in our church home as well. We are at a place when we need to come together and imagine how we can best use our resources to make a difference, not necessarily make things better, to make a difference in this world, in our community. So next Saturday, I look forward to seeing all of you here for a conversation to imagine what our future here as this church might look like. So we would like to see all of you with your ideas, your feedback, your experience, so we can share and figure out where do we want to put our resources in, what kind of things we want to focus on in this near future, not far away, in this near future. And I'm really hoping that the next Saturday will be a breakthrough conversation. We'll come up with something really awesome. Yes, that's why I have that hope, because you are awesome and you have ideas and you have gifts and you have talents, and when we put them all together, we can do amazing things here. And that's a reminder that even when some things break down, some things are broken, don't work, there are still amazing things happening to us, around us, amidst us. And one such thing will be next Sunday. Unitarian Universalist Association, that is the big organization of which we are a part, our denomination, our faith. We have a president of that association, right? The highest person in our ranking kind of thing that we have. She will be with us to worship, to lead us in worship next Sunday. This is historic. We've never had a sitting UUA president be with us. But Sophia Betancourt will. Buren has been here, but that was after or before he was a president, I think, right? Dick's memory is starting to spin. I can tell. For an installation service, possibly. Okay, we'll find out from Dick if I just said something incorrect, and we will correct it next time. But she will be here together with Reverend Aaron Walter, who is the Texas Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry Director. And they both will be here to lead worship with us as part of the Justice Ministries weekend that they're doing in DFW area next weekend. So we're part of a larger event. They're focusing on You the Vote to encourage people to vote. And I'll be here too. I made rearrangements. I did some schedule rearrangements, and I will be here. I'm not going to miss this opportunity. Hope you can do that same. But with all that support and all that encouragement that we receive, we keep going. We keep working to make a world a better place. And we still keep pushing forward. Wherever you are on your journey, I am glad you are joining us here today. Alison Wohler wrote these words, "It is good to be together." This is the title of it. "With thankful hearts, we have come together this morning to celebrate the bounty of the day, to bask in the warmth of this community, to share with friends the tides of our lives, to entertain perennially our hopes for a better future. We join together this morning, as always, to resist injustice and inequality wherever they may be found. Our hearts are touched by the human need that we feel around us, whether far away or within reach of our hand. We come here to be together because this is how we believe our lives are best lived, in questioning and in conversation, in compassion and in service, in gratitude and in joy, in companionship and in love. It is good to be together with you this morning. Let us worship together.
We will begin lighting our chalice, a symbol both of the heritage of our past and the light of hope within this church today. The chalice reading is "We Prepare for the Future" by Robin F. Gray, and today the chalice will be lit by Arne Hagerhorst.
By the light of this chalice, we prepare for the future. We prepare ourselves for the times of triumph and the times of trial that might come. We prepare ourselves to be present to one another with loving hearts, even in the most difficult of times. We prepare ourselves to make the connections that will lift us out of isolation and prepare the path of justice and equality.
A covenant is the promise we make with one another about the way we will walk together as a community, a congregation. It is a conversation that we share every Sunday. Please join me in reminding ourselves of this promise. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and freedom, and to help one another.
So, for the story today, I brought something special with me, and I want to show you a bowl that I got. Whoops. It broke. Oh my. What are we going to do now? I think we need to fix it. Can you help me fix it? I know you didn't break it, but I mean, we need a wire to wrap it. Oh my, is there any other way? Glue? Say again?
Buy a new one.
Buy a new one, okay. Is there anything else? Tape? No? Curly glue? Yeah. Chewing gum? No? Oh, here you go. Arn's already sharing. Okay, we can start repairing it. There are things in our lives that do break, right? And I don't know if you noticed in that corner, the very bottom corner, that's a bowl that's been repaired. Does anyone know what that is called? Kintsugi. There's a Japanese art. They, in not just glue, they also add gold. And when they repair, put the bowls together. Some people actually intentionally break them and then put them together because that's how that art is created. And that art is, the philosophy of Kintsugi is that there is beauty in broken things. And you can see where the bowl was broken because it's filled with that gold to emphasize where the broken lines were before. I'm going to put it here for now because I want to look at. When we think about our lives, what kind of things usually break? Hearts, right? What else? Promises. Relationships. Spirit. Death. Body breaks. Is that what you said? Death, yes. So brokenness, yes. Body breaks down, right? What else? Health. Oh, it goes quickly, right? Minds. Yes. Some of the things we can... Finances break down. Yes. Yes. Ouch. What else breaks down? Cars. Houses. Here we go. Ambitions. Civilizations. We're going somewhere further with that, huh? Systems. Healthcare. Relationships. Justice. Trust. Voting? Voting, is that what you said? Elections, cycles? Politics. We get some broken things that we see in the politics, right? People's rights, the border issues, the health care, we can keep going, right? Race, and other injustices. So, as you use, we don't always leave the broken things to be, we seek to repair them. When the relationships break down, we put an effort to restore relationships. We put an effort to be in covenant with one another so that we don't harm the other person with things that we might do. We strive to treat one another with dignity and respect. And we apply that to seek and restore relationships when we hurt someone. When someone hurts us, we seek to do that if it's appropriate. That healing, that repair, we're known to get involved in marches and other kind of social justice activism too. It's part of that healing work to repair what's broken. When we repair these broken things with love, and remain within covenant with one another, then when we see that our relationships are beautiful, even after we have been able to say, I'm sorry, forgive me, and when we can come back. Today, we'll be thinking more about, not just about relationships, but more other things as well, about things that are not working, like in our church too. And how, when we continue in our faith and with our commitments, we can make these things beautiful.
Today our reading is Pushing Forward by Elandria Williams. If we believe in the promise of our faith, we must continue pushing forward, even if the reality makes us want to give up. There is no one-size-fits-all solution or model, but there are many paths forward based upon context, relationships, and place. Ideology sparks movements, but relationships are what change organizations and sustain movements. It takes one relationship at a time. In the end, changes to the leadership of the institution happen because of relationships, people pushing. We must place value on the relationships and the need to not leave folks behind in our quest for transformation. Elandria lives in a small city, and living in that small city helps her understand what community means. Community doesn't only include the people who agree with you or those with whom you want to be friends. Our Unitarian Universal faith is similar in the sense that we are a small religious community of people who are not bound by creed, but instead are bound by principles, values, and a covenant with a deep need for intellectual rigor combined with spiritual depth or humanist love. Everything comes back to our congregations and covenant communities. That is where the faith starts and ends. We must embody the changes we wish to see and not just say that we believe in the changes. We must actually live the changes with every fabric of our being. If we believe in the promise of our faith, we must continue pushing forward.
There is a story about a monastery that is perched high on a cliff, hundreds of feet in the air. The only way to reach the monastery is in a basket, which is pulled to the top by monks who reel the basket up by muscle power alone. The ride up the steep cliff in the basket was terrifying. One visitor got exceedingly nervous about halfway up as he noticed that the rope by which he was suspended was old and frayed. With a trembling voice, he asked the monk who was riding with him in a basket, "How often do you change the ropes?" The monk thought for a moment and answered brusquely, "Whenever it breaks." If you think that such difficult-to-reach monasteries exist only in stories or jokes, that is not so. There is a Buddhist temple in Hua Mountain in China. It has 5 separate peaks, each of which has a temple on top. The most remote of these peaks can be reached by climbing a series of steps known as heavenly stairs, which is made from stone. There are stone steps carved in the mountain, but they're so steep that one slip would bring the climber tumbling down. And when you do reach the top, there's a tea house offering a tea ceremony. Well, is it possible that there is a monastery that uses rope to pull people in a basket? Who knows? This story did come from the big book of church jokes. Yes, there is such a book. And it seems clear from that story that the rope does get worn out and becomes frail and breaks. And it's left to our imagination what happens when the rope breaks. In mine, it's some scary stuff. But what about that rope that is holding us? What is it that keeps us together? Is our rope strong? Or is it becoming frail and worn out? Maybe already broken. Life is full of events and experiences that challenge us and wear us out. The relationship difficulties that seem to come back over and over again, health struggles that press us down, financial strain, then losing someone we love. We're experiencing and witnessing power abuse and misuse. It all creates stress in our lives and sometimes leave us dangling over the abyss, wondering if we will survive. Even when we were working hard to keep ourselves together, sometimes it may feel like we are on a roller coaster of things just falling apart one by one. And we are able to make through only by holding on to that which gives us strength to get through that one day. Holding on to that gives us meaning and purpose and helps us to endure the circumstances. These are the times we need others to be patient with us first and to hold us through those times. If you're like me, then you have experienced something like this in your life. Even famous people go through something that is difficult and hard. One of the most influential women of her time was Margaret Fuller. She shaped the public thought about American women, their role and their rights. She wrote a book, Women in the 19th Century. It was published in 1845, a few years before the Seneca Falls meeting where the first feminist movement officially began. When Margaret's younger sister died, her parents focused on giving Margaret the best education possible. She thought this early and intensive drilling, sometimes late into the night, was the reason that she struggled with her sleeplessness and nightmares as a child. And throughout her life, she had poor eyesight and migraine headaches. When she attended school, however, that early instruction and her natural brilliance gave her a sense of superiority, which her classmates interpreted as arrogance. Margaret was socially awkward. She was unpopular among her peers, who responded to her with a mixture of awe and ridicule. Yet by her late teens, she had gained friends, and among them, James Freeman Clarke and William Henry Channing. Names that we are familiar with, right? Then her family relocated. She was in her 20s when her father's sudden death of cholera threw her family into a financial crisis. Margaret struggled to take her father's place, to protect her mother's interests, and see to the education and welfare of her 5 younger siblings. In addition, Margaret had several unfulfilled love relationships until her late 30s. One can only wonder how she could keep it all together. But she did. She met Ralph Waldo Emerson, Elizabeth Peabody, and other Unitarian intellectuals and activists. She began to teach, write, translate, and edit the new transcendentalist journal called The Dial. She also organized a series of conversations for women and their rights. Many well-known Unitarian women attended these conversations. Margaret had realized that the attitudes and conditions of women in her society contribute to the difficulties that women experience. She believed women are more than what they are allowed to be, and she hoped that the conversations might cultivate the kind of thinking about women engagement in place in society that would improve their lives. There's a quote from her work. What she hoped from these discussions is that they will help to discern what pursuits are best suited to us in our time and society, and how we can make the best use of our means of building the life of thought upon the life of action. Well, in other words, Margaret had noticed that the rope that was holding women were taking the life out of them rather than lifting them up. Such rope needed to be replaced, but not with the same one, with a different one. The one that would bring women up, help them see themselves in a new way, and allow them to be more engaged in the society. Margaret died young. She was just 40 years old. She had gotten married very recently. Together with her family, she was sailing back from Italy. The captain had died of smallpox. Margaret's baby also got smallpox but recovered. And then the ship, left without a captain, vanished in a hurricane. Margaret and her family perished. If Margaret was here with us today, what kind of conversations would she organize? What kind of conversations do we want to organize in our time and place? We do know there are things and structures that do harm, that are broken. There are ropes that fail to give life, and they need to be replaced. In 2004, our Unitarian Universalist Association initiated a program called Breakthrough Congregations to help us learn from those congregations that we're able to figure out how to break through their struggles and grow. These congregations were nominated to tell their story. Later in 2017, the program added a new focus to add stories to show us new models and successful approaches to engage across the UU community. So not just congregations, but all covenanted communities and startups that had demonstrated new and better ways of meeting the needs of people. Those stories were also featured in the UU World magazine. The stories of these congregations now live on the UUA website. You're all welcome to look them up. And they are telling us about different ways For example, how congregations paid attention to their neighborhood and then changed their mission focus. How they started something new and then experienced a notable growth. Many of these congregations experienced membership growth by hundreds. All Souls Church Unitarian in Washington, D.C., had experienced a major conflict in their church, but the church rebounded and grew from 160 to over 500 by embracing its multicultural values and its spiritual connections. Another congregation, UU Fellowship of Mankato in Minnesota, a small congregation of about 50 adults, took a leap of faith. They hired a new minister, bought a building, and then grew to 180 members. One congregation that I think is kind of a little more similar to us in size grew from 170 to 240 in 5 years. It was UU Fellowship of San Luis Obispo County in California. When Reverend Helen Carroll arrived at this breakthrough congregation, the community was clear that growth was part of their future, but they didn't know yet how it was going to happen. All they knew is they wanted to be inviting, not because it's some kind of strategy, it's because of who they are as a community. So they made an intentional effort to keep the longtime members connected. They made changes to their policy governance so that the board can move away from micromanaging the programming of the church. And they focused on their volunteers, and especially on what their volunteers were excited and passionate about. That's all they did. For us as a church, the time is here to pay attention to the ropes that need to be replaced or changed. That's what next weekend is part of. You're all invited to come and brainstorm and imagine what our future might look like. Maybe we do need to downsize, and maybe, just maybe, what if we could find a way to have a breakthrough conversation? As Elandria Williams said, everything comes back to our congregations and covenanted communities. That is where the faith starts and ends. There is no one-size-fits-all models, but there are many paths forward, and we just need to figure out which one is ours. And then once we do, we must embody those changes that we wish to see. Not just say that we believe in the change because we sang it in the first hymn, Enter, Rejoice, Don't Be Afraid of Some Change. We must actually live the changes with every fabric of our being. If we believe in the promise of our faith, we must continue pushing forward. Reverend Elandria Williams' words. So come, join a conversation about our passions, your passions, and the ministries that you are excited about. To figure out what is ahead of us, where our future is taking us, and go to that place in a future where we are holding one another, supporting one another, and making a difference in this community and beyond. We will keep pushing forward, and we'll do it together until we get to a place where we are embodying our dreams and our hopes.
As our worship time this morning draws to a close, it is time now to extinguish our chalice. Please join me now in reciting these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
For benediction today, we give thanks for the people in this sanctuary. They have strong arms to hold us when we need a hug. They have steady presence when our lives are shaken. They remind us to be wise with our words, generous with our actions, and thankful for the gifts in our lives. May we each become the person we want to be, and in doing so, may we as a loving people become the congregation we want to become. Amen.